In this week's episode, we talk about addiction and how conscious awareness is crucial to change, how childhood trauma tends to be the root of addiction and how you can explore this, the power of community and how connection is the key to addiction, and leaning into resistance and discomfort and doing what you least want to do is where the growth happens.
Welcome to Man Quest Define Meaning, where we help men navigate modern life, find their true purpose, and redefine manhood. I'm your host, James, and each week, inspiring guests share their journeys of overcoming fear, embracing vulnerability, and finding success. From experts to everyday heroes, get practical advice and powerful insights. Struggling with career, relationships, or personal growth? We've got you covered. Join us on Man Quest to Find Meaning. Now, let's dive in.
Good morning, James. Tell me about yourself.
Good morning, James. Right. Where do we even start with that question? In terms of us meeting and this podcast, so myself now is someone that has been in recovery for coming up for 12, 13 years. So I've removed myself from alcohol, primarily alcohol, the cocaine, and any other drugs that came with it. After a lifetime of abuse. So this version currently of me now is someone who's in recovery and very, very best to be aware of his behaviours on the outside world and on my relationship close to me. So I am trying very hard to be a conscious being. That's who I am.
So let's start there actually, because I'm interested. Because I feel when you've got addictions or habits which particularly aren't particularly good for you, to become conscious of them can be a big ask for a lot of people. How did you start to become conscious of your addictions?
Yeah. You see, I started drinking and using substances like at a young age. Not addictively, not too damaging. But it was like from 13, like drinking cider in the past, all that, and smoking spliffs, LSD, 14, 15, and it's been a while since I've spoke about this, because when I stopped drinking and doing what I was doing, my daughter was 13, which is the age that I was thinking, man, I was drinking in a park, up to no good, smoking cannabis, LSD. I was thinking, wow, 13, 14, that's not really an age to be experimenting the way I was, but that's the way it was. Where I was and where it is for lots of people, I suppose. But being consciously aware of my addictions, I don't think that was ever the case. I knew it was a problem for a long time. So I'm now 49. I stopped drinking when I was 36. And for the last, oh God, from my 20s, it was a problem. From my, late teens, 20s. So I've been aware that I had a problem for a long time. Didn't do anything about it, though, until I was 36.
In regards to you now every day, because what I find is, I've realized that I've got addictions to social media. I've got addictions to porn, as an example. And But it's one thing going from doing it automatically to stepping into that version of yourself where you start to realize that, oh, even before you actually do it, that you're about to do it. What was it that actually led to that point where you decided, you know what, I'm putting it completely?
So there was lots of reasons why. I mean, physically, it went. My body was giving up. You know, my body was giving up. It was like I was bloated. I was yellow. Physically, you know, withdrawing lots of times, DTs and all that. So physically, it weren't sustainable. You know, so that was a gave in. And emotionally, one of the big turning points for me um, was the damage it was doing to me mum. You know, that I was physically watching her, because I'd put a lot of it on her. So I lived about 3-4 miles away, um, but I'd burn all my bridges, and I'd spend all my money. And bearing in mind, I'm a grown man. You know what I mean? I'd be working and all. You know, I was a chef for a long time, which didn't really help with the drinking, because we used to drink in the kitchen and then we drink after work and so on and all that. But I used to go down to my mum's for food. That's what it was really, and a bit of respite away from my flat because it was dirty, you know. So I'd go down. But then towards the end, I was I was manipulating it for money, like saying, you know, if I don't get a drink, you know, this can happen. It's really dangerous, you know, because it was alcohol dependent. Um, I mean, this was true, but it was manipulation, you know. That's what it was. But my mum came out one morning, and I was all like that. Um, and she refused to go to the shop to buy alcohol, which I'd never asked her to do before. But she'd never refused me anything ever. And that was a moment, even whilst I was under the influence, the DTs and all that. That was a moment. I was like, you know what I mean? I have pushed this, whatever this is, this lifestyle, to its very edge. And for my mum to turn around and say no to me, there is a sign that this has come to. You can't even get that person who do anything for you to do that. It's like it's over. It is over. And there was an internal change there and then that helped me. I mean, it wasn't instant. You know what I mean? I'm still an alcoholic and an addict, and I am sorting my life out. That's all. But there was something in that made me go like, no, no. So there's a decline then, and I look towards recovery, which I didn't know. I knew one person from my field who had gone into sort of recovery, like into these groups in Liverpool city centre that like would do art and maybe like day excursions and computers and stuff like that. So I knew it was on the horizon, and that was like the beginning. That was like 2012, 2013.
First thing, congratulations for so many years of being sober and breaking your addictions. With regards to the people you have worked with, what do you believe is the root cause of addiction?
So this,
Or is there one, shall I say, or are there many?
so my outlook, my ways around recovery have changed massively over the years. So I came through. I went to rehab for 12 weeks. Whilst in rehab, we were encouraged. My rehab was a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So you were locked in ish for those times. And then of an evening, you were required to go to a meeting, a mutual aid meeting, So that'll be Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. So within those 12 weeks, I started going to meetings, which was the transformative catapult for me. Was the 12 steps. That's what changed. What changed me. So I was very studious. I was, completely engaged in the program. I lived from the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Every single word in it spoke to me, for me, helped me. I've done it to the letter. It says if you don't want to drink and use again, then follow these principles. And I've done that because I didn't not want to go back. Fast forward again, like 5 years ago, I went down plant medicine. So iboga initially, ayahuasca, a couple of sit-ins, mushrooms, cannabis, psychedelic. I've used all these modules to further my understanding of myself and the world, not necessarily addiction. I've come more towards GABA mate. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. Or GABA mate, as they call in the Liverpool. GABA mate. He will say, show me an addict, an alcoholic, and I will show you someone who didn't have a happy childhood. And I was like, nah, not having that. I had a happy childhood. I had this, and this. And there was a friend of ours, she's a doctor, and she trained in compassionate inquiry, which is GABA mate's module. And the opening question for the compassionate inquiry, which I knew this because I've worked with this woman. I was on a retreat with her, and it done the full hit, so I knew it was coming. So the opening question is simply, tell me about your happy childhood. So I knew that was coming. And I rushed. We live up on the north coast here. I mean, you can't see, in terms of showing up the window, there's the Atlantic Ocean. It's amazing, but it doesn't go any further. So we were rushing back up for this appointment with this woman that I was. Sat down on Zoom again, and all the Zoom gremlins couldn't get in. And, okay, James, come on, just compose yourself. Breathe with me. Come into the meeting. So settled. Tell me about your happy childhood. Something inside my head went, let me get no on an old-fashioned workman's desk with all the numbers with all the, like a roller desk, and I had all these images going around my brain, like, and I cried. Something came in from in there. You can't see where I'm pressing, right in my stomach, like it came from there. This sadness. I was uncontrollable. I didn't have one. And so that was the beginning of me understanding trauma, early events. I think we spoke about this when I was walking the dog. It's about my dad. My dad left when I can't remember. I always say about 2. I don't even know if that's right. So I can't remember him being there. But I spent a lifetime searching. So, I mean, the stories I got told, coming down, shaving. There was a shaver with a little bits of tissue paper on my face. I was copying. We weren't there. I used to go out and be a little housing estate. A bit like Shameless. Pool city centre, just on the outskirts. I used to go knock for fellas, other dads, and we come in and go, Jimmy there. Couldn't do that. I used to go and sit in the butchers. Used to go to workmen. I was searching for my dad. Do you know what I mean? I was missing something. And my template, my dad was an alcoholic, um, from a long line of alcoholics, pub alcoholics, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I became him, even though we weren't there, because that was my genetic template. Um, but I do believe, I mean, I can speak for myself. I can only ever speak for myself. But I mean, but, you know, obviously it's hard to ignore the hundreds of people, maybe more thousands of people I've sat and work with, that all come, you know, I can't generalize, but childhood trauma, you know, you would not do these things if you were happy, stable, and cared for and loved, and you just wouldn't, you know. So early childhood trauma has the massive impact on people's self-soothing.
Do you find that's quite a common thing with the people that you work with?
I can pretty much go straight there with people. I mean, I can buy, I can work with people however they want to work, you know. But if you want to go straight to the source, you know, there's a great saying, the treasures we seek,
Mm-hmm.
the hidden by the dragons we fear, you know. So there's that as well, you know. With addictions, if you want to move away from it, then be prepared to do the things you don't want to do. You know, and I can say to people, what is it you don't want to do to get clean and sober? You know, in those terms. But what are the things you don't want to do to stop drinking? Or what do you, and they'll all go, okay, well, that's what you do. Yeah.
The funny thing is, the last couple of days, I've read this small piece within this work that I'm doing, and it said that for us to get the biggest transformation or the biggest growth, we've got to do the things that we resist the most.
Mhm.
And so the sense in there is, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be within addictions. It could be within the business or relationships or any area of our life. But there's so many things that we resist. And the funny thing is, I yesterday got back onto Bumble, and I've got a match, and suddenly all these insecurities came in, thinking you're not good enough, kind of thing, and all these different stuff. And what I realized was that that was bang on. That's where my resistance is, because quite often when my insecurities pop up, I pull back and don't do anything about it. So it was that realization that in order to pass that, to get through that resistance, I've got to hit that head on, and I've got to do something different what I normally wouldn't do. And so there was this conversation interaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Just be prepared to do things you don't want to do. That's so when my role in recovery, I went from rehab straight into volunteering for early because it was all Liverpool city centre, so it was like volunteer with the homeless, the YMCA, just any mental health, addiction, rehabs, detox units, all that, doing all that. And then I went into becoming a grief worker. Sort of lost why I was saying that. What were we saying there? What were we talking about at the beginning?
We're talking about resistance and stepping
Yeah.
into resistance, and about you going and volunteering.
That's right. That's right. So I'd say to people, one of the things that you don't want to do, that's what it is we need to do. So everyone that came into my groups, or we done assessments on for every alcoholic and addict, and this is like a 10-year career. Everyone's put down anxiety and depression, right? So the thing is with anxiety, this is what I was thinking about, is that, and the resistance with being on Bumble, is that I've got a level of where my anxiety will come up to, like water coming up a beach, leaving a mark. I'll leave a little mark and I'll go back down. If it comes up to where I know it comes up to, and I just allow it to sink back again, I haven't moved. I hadn't moved forwards. The next time that match comes on Bumble, I'm going to get up to that point and I'm going to go and let it go. But what I encourage and what I encourage for myself, let it come up and walk through with it
Mm.
and go against it. You know, 'cause I say to people, no one's died from anxiety. Not that I know of. You know, it's not physically, you got overly anxious and it's created a massive cardiac arrest. You know, it's just your body telling you that there's something not quite right here. You know, have a little nose. You can go, do you know what? Well, there's nothing happening apart from what I'm thinking. Let's go through it.
Right, end of the day, it's just energy, isn't it? Anxiety, our emotions, just energy. So if you just almost sit with that energy and just breathe through it, that energy is going to dissipate. And I find because I must admit my general feeling can quite often be anxiousness, but at the same time, I don't allow it to affect me because I allow myself to breathe through it. And then I allow myself to feel the love that I have for myself and for the people around me. And that allows me to step through it rather than for me to overtake you. So I saw also in the same piece that quite often when people have emotions, they allow the emotions to control what they do rather than emotions are there. We should be allowing ourselves to use our emotions in a healthy way rather than allowing the emotions to use us. So if you've got, say, for example, I saw on TV that there's 2 million people off sick from work, and a lot of them they'll say it's anxiety attacks. But if you allow yourself to go into that anxiety and to feel that, rather than allow it to use you and to perhaps keep you in your house, step into it, breathe, and then just take a small, tiny step of what the anxiety is coming up with.
This is exactly what I come up when I was teaching people in groups is that line. You're only ever going to get to there and then go back. But get up to here. And I used to say to people, you know, I will hold your hand, like genuinely or figuratively or metaphorically to get you across, right? Because you caught in recovery. So with me working my motivational or my experience or my skills, whatever you want in group, all I'm doing is best I can lead people to what we call a bridge of reason. So I'll take them from one, we'll stay in this pen, right? I'll bring them over to a bridge and I'll go, look at that over there. Isn't that amazing? Look at that greenery, look at that peace, look at that fun that's possible, look at that future. You know, people are terrified to cross over the bridge into small, into unknown, you know, into this newness. So it's a bridge of reason, you know, but that's your anxiety. That stops you from crossing. But it's like, you know what? No, once you come over, you'll be all right. Even just a little step, get onto the bridge, come back, and so on. You know, so we know this, but I mean, it's took me so many years. You know, we know this, but for the average person, it's like the body is in control, like the emotion. No, 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 no. I feel it. It must be real. I think it. It must be real. No, 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 no.
So how can people take that first step to realize that their emotions are controlling them? And
I'm a great believer, and not just a great believer, right? Connection. We don't know. if I don't know how to do something, I want to look at someone. This is how I've managed to get where I am. I looked at someone else who done what it is I needed to do, and I copied that and I done it. So when I'm surrounded by people to choose from, to look at, to emulate, I mean, we're just apes. That's what we do. We're a species that can learn by watching others as well, and feeling safe and connected, not feeling like a fool because other people have made the mistakes for me. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to do that because he done that, or he told me. You know, I was never shown. I think the game we had this conversation. I was never shown how to be a man, how to be whatever that means. To be, courageous, and I know women can be courageous, but like I never seen it in myself. How to emulate and do all these things. I had a lot. I'm starting from scratch in a lot of areas.
Yeah, I was it last 2022. I went to the Mankind Project. Have you heard the Mankind Project?
Mhm.
So I did my warrior training back then, and basically you are thrown amongst 40 other people, and you are held by 40 other men who have been through the process. And within that weekend, the warrior training, you get to witness yourself and others go through a process of completely transforming their lives from understanding who they are, allowing yourself to go into your emotional self. You're able to look other men in the eyes and really connect for the very first time. And within that weekend, I had quite a profound realization that when you are around other people where you want to be, there's a sense of really stepping into that version of yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
And so you're right, having that connection with people who are where you want to be, but also taking yourself away from perhaps your environment that you're already in and stepping in, just seeing perhaps a person in the distance, how he's acting. And so I think it's even more important that us who are more conscious of these traits, these addictions, and everything that happens in our normal lives, we can really step into who we're meant to be so that we can help others to do the same at the same time.
Exactly. Everyone is our teacher. Everyone. So all the ceremonies I've been to, all the courses and the retreats, and anything like the self-help programs and whatever. Every single person I come across is there to teach me something. Everyone knows something I don't. Everyone. I will always learn from everyone. And I need to get on my own way. That's the big thing. Get on my own way. So if I've done those archetypal saying in the men's groups, and I can watch someone else maybe dance at a distance a bit more freely and like not self-conscious, and it's only me that judges me. I'm not judging him, but he's giving me permission to dance as well, and then I'm off then. And whilst I'm in that loop of all this, me watching him dance, I'm going, no, it's all right. I can dance too. Yeah, yeah. Someone else is watching me, going, you know what? Maybe I can do what they're doing. Because that's how it works. Always like in the gym, you're always looking at, you want to be someone over there. Someone else is watching you. They want to be where you are because they haven't got that far. And that's how it works. And it's only me that's in the way. Yeah.
Yes, nicely put. We are our biggest block. Funny thing was, I was at dance a couple of Sundays ago, and so static dance, and within that static dance, I was just dancing like there's no tomorrow. I don't know what it is about the music, but I literally just lose myself and I dance like a complete nutter. That's the best way of putting it, a complete nutter. But when you look around, what I'm noticing is that people are smiling at how I dance because I'm so free. And it's that realization that in that moment, you are allowing other people to be just as free as you. And then there'll be people who I look up to who can allow me to be as completely free as them.
Yeah, and a lot of goes.
Yeah.
And a lot of goes. So I would be one of those people smiling, dancing so freely. That's like one of the restrictions I've still attached to myself. I mean, you wouldn't know it in public, or if you're in a static dance together, you wouldn't know it. But I still restrict myself, you know. And then I'd watch you. You see, because we've got, maybe we're on the North Coast, but we've got like a space in Belfast called Body Conscious on a place called Botanic Avenue, which is just like the student area of Belfast. It's a real cool, it's a nice area. Botanic Park at the end. But we'll hold events in there. And one of them is like contact improv. You know, I'm sure you. But there's a girl in there. She's a musician. She's contact improv singer. She's a practitioner, a body worker. She's so talented. But I watch her do all these things, and she's just. I think maybe she does a little bit, you know what I mean? But it's just like no F's given, you know what I mean? Like that is like freedom. Well, that is freedom. Because no one's asked. No one's asked half of myself. I love it.
It's taken me 3 years to get to this point where I can, and I still now and again get into my head, but it's I mean a long process of really going to the events like this. And so this tails quite nicely back into addictions, because obviously once you start to overcome addictions, it's not going to be a straight path.
Yeah.
There's going to be bumps in the road. And it's this idea that if I use the idea of watching porn, I might have 4 or 5, maybe a week of not doing anything, and then I'll get thrown back into it all. And that's okay, because that's part of the process. And it's becoming conscious in that moment, maybe after it's happened, that what was it that actually made me do that? And then eventually you'll just keep moving on to the next thing. And I'm going to do Graham Waterfield's course on sexual energy and all that kind of stuff. So I feel that's the next stage for me. But it's that realization that when you hit a bump, it's okay. But it's about getting back up again and going again. Because it's quite easy at that point to say, do you know what? I'm going to stop. I can't be bothered. I've fallen. I'm going to stop. But as a baby, if you fall over when you're trying to walk, are you going to stop? No. You're going to carry on. So why do we stop when we should be trying again and again and again?
You see, I feel that if we're doing any of this on our own, if we have identified the problem and then try and figure it out on our own, then that seems to be the pattern. Because if we haven't identified why we're doing this, it's subjectively, and brought in other people to look at it in that whole 360, train people as well, then we're never going to get out of the loop that we put ourselves in. It's like one of the Einstein and someone said, we can't think ourselves out of a problem that our mind has created. The same mind can't come out that created the problem. So I need to be around others.
So that's why AA and other ones and other groups are so powerful. Connection.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And not all, you see, it's quite contentious for some people, AA and CA. They'll always go on about it's religious. It's not. The book was wrote by an atheist, an agnostic. It clearly states in the book that it uses the word God as a term of convenience for you to change. Talked about the spiritual experience that Carl Jung spoke about in order to be transformative with an alcoholic, with someone else with other behavioral issues. You have to have a spiritual experience. He doesn't talk about a religious one. He talks about a spiritual experience where you see things instead of looking, like where you become conscious instead of just looking out, where you're looking, you're looking in and how everything's affecting you. Like that, your eyes need to turn and start looking completely how things are affecting others, how that internally is affecting outside. As we're in, so we're out. You know, well, not everyone in AA is well. That's that's the nature of and not everyone in AA or CA or NA understands the program, the scripture, if you like, the rules that people are playing by. So it becomes dogmatic and people bring their own nonsense. And so it can become a bit murky. But the teachings themselves, the 12 steps, life saving, the transforms like a baptism. I mean, that format in civilizations way before it was picked up by AA and before they got acquired it from the 12th century Oxford group, which was like a branch off of Christianity. They got it from somewhere. This is human beings make mistakes, and we want to be better versions of ourselves. That's what the 12 steps is, and that format is in civilizations to be like a baptism. We come to repent, and we want to be better. You know.
Yeah. Can you tell us the first couple of steps that you are in the AA?
Yeah. So step one, you admitted you were powerless over alcohol or other substances, and your life had become unmanageable. I mean, it's pretty easy. If you're at that point, you're looking at AA, then your life has become pretty much unmanageable. Step two, came to believe that a power greater than us can restore us to sanity. Okay, because I can't. My mind and the love of my child, my mum, my partner, the people who are like directly linked to you inside your little small hula hoop of people, they can't change it. But they can't say, you're drinking, your drugs is too bad. If you're going to stop, we're going to leave and all that. None of that works. None of that works. You just go up and tell someone, stop. Stop. They'll be all right. Yeah. They came to believe that a power greater than us. Am I willing to believe that a power greater than me can restore me to sanity? Yes, I am, because that's exactly what I need. I need restoring to sanity because I haven't been sane. For me, the steps were easy to digest. But I think if you're still close enough to your carnage in the past, it's still like within living distance that you can use that as a catalyst to move forward. A lot of people won't do that. They won't look back. With a little bit of grace now, life seems to be a little bit better. I'll carry on. I mean, he's going towards the inevitable downfall.
And looking back can be painful, but only when you look back can you see where you have made mistakes. But also, if you blame others for things that happened in your life, you are kind of giving your power away. So what I was going to bring in as well here was that you can perhaps own your part, whether it's something big or small, in other people's mistakes. So then suddenly you bring the power back to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, within the 12 steps in the book, it talks about only ever cleaning your side of the street. You know, there's no point in saying it. And then it also says, you know, if you step on the toes of the fellows, they will react. You know, so have a look for whatever you've done to me, right? Let me see how that came about. So I'm not focusing on what you've done to me. Did I step on your toes in some way? Did I provoke that? Is my behaviour warranted someone else's reaction, response? You know, in my case, pretty much all the time. And, you know, I know the people's cases. If you stop and have a look, where was I? Where was I to blame? Where was I at fault? You know, it'll be there somewhere. But but again, it's guidance from others on how to do this process, how it's done in the past. You know, and patience as well. Can't just start this thing and it's going to be. If I do all this, everything's going to be all right. It doesn't work like that. You know, there's a long period. A lot of people don't forget as well, and your life changes in so many different ways.
You talked about a good point a minute ago about the owning your part, just your part. So that brings in the idea of introspection. And how can people start to do a little bit more of introspection in their life? So just for the audience here, what I mean by introspection is how can you look at yourself and figure out or journal down areas that you can improve on, or areas that you might have done people wrong that you can own. So how can people start to really step into introspecting their own life?
There's 3 indispensable it's like a bullet points that I stress for anyone that wants to make changes, right? And number 1 is honesty, right? And I've sat and we've done groups. I've sat with people and done groups and just came in and we put honesty on the board and we spent an hour. Like nothing else, and that just opens up a. So for the honesty that is required to move forward, so the honesty we're after is pitch black. So I was to put my head in a box, completely airtight, no gaps whatsoever. It's just pitch black. I can't even see anything there. If I'm 99.9.9 honest, right, that allows, bear in mind it's really sunny outside, okay? So that point one just pricks the corner and there's a beam, tiny beam, but there's a beam of light coming to my box now. The level of honesty, because you cannot kid yourself, because you're the only one who's seeing that beam. So you know. This is the battle. It's with yourself. So if you want to be introspective, you've got to be honest. You have to be honest, you know. You've got to be open-minded. This is number 2 on the 3. You've got to be open-minded. You've got to be willing. And that's number 3. So if you get given something, why don't you say just this wild weekend with all these men. Why don't you try this ecstatic dance? Why don't you try this formula? If your go-to is nah, nah, no, then you've lost. You know, you can't move forward from that. You know, you've got to be willing to try new things. You've got to open your mind. You've got to be honest. You know, and you can stick to them. You'll move forward. You know, pen and paper. Write yourself some honest questions. What do I not? What don't I want to do? Right, and then if you can't put down what it is you don't want to do, then you're not being honest to yourself. And there's your sticking point straight away.
What was the third one?
So it's honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness.
Oh, yeah, willingness. Okay, you
Yeah.
put open-minded willingness together. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, that makes complete sense because I'm very good at introspection. That's one of my strong points. But trying to relay sometimes what I know is quite difficult for people who perhaps aren't quite as introspective as myself. And so getting another point of view and another way of introspecting is always a good thing.
Definitely. Don't go on, you know. I mean, you obviously, you know, you can take your own advice, you know, but at the beginning, unsure and you're looking to make changes, then there's plenty of people out there. Obviously, you're going to find someone you can trust. That going back to what I said at the beginning, there's always someone who knows something I don't, who's got lived experience of that, and I need that. You know, there's a great analogy which I am going to put to animation. I spoke to friends of mine who do animation, but this was told to me a few years ago. Is that being an addiction is like being in one of those really old-fashioned wells, like a fairy tale. You know, like the circle on with the wheel at the top, but you're right at the bottom in the dark again, sort of like that. You know, just surrounded by your own misery you've created. Um, and then there's the gap at the top, and you just see sunlight, and then people will come over, your friends will come over because you're in a bad way, and they'll pop their heads over, and you'll see them, and they'll either throw a little bag in something, if you're lucky, you know, lucky, some cans, or just like share a few jokes, but they're off, and then the drinking drugs are gone again. You're still there, you know what I mean? Doctors will come, you know, and look over. You might float a little prescription down or something, you know, it's antidepressants or whatever. It's just pointless the amount of people on antidepressants and still drinking copious amounts of alcohol. That's another point. Psychiatrists will come over and, you know, they'll look on and maybe drop a formula in or something for you to keep thinking about. But you're still stuck. But when another addict or alcoholic, clean and sober, they can jump in, right? And then initially you think, right, well, that's us screwed now because the two of us stuck. The other one says, no, it's not, because I know the way out. You know, I can shine a little torch on the foothold here, another one there. Come with me, hold on tight, trust me. Let's go up together and let's come out. And you come out, it's all bright and scary, and there's too many people, and you don't know where to put your hands. But that's another journey. That's another journey. But initially, I need someone to show me the way out. You know, show me how they done it. And I go, because we all know how to do lots of things. We're very capable. But when we don't know how to do something, that creates that fear of being stupid. Do you know what I mean? For me, self-conscious, being judged. You know, all these internal judgments come up. But when someone else is carrying me and showing me it, I can relax a little bit then and say thank you. You know, and then I can start helping others from the little journey I've done that they don't know. Pull them forward, and then people pull me forward, and I keep pulling them forward, and then so on until we're like out of sight.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, with regards to emotions, like shame and guilt, what kind of role do they play in addictions? And if somebody does have shame and guilt, how can they move past them as
So in my experience, I mean, again, I'll try and only speak for myself. The formula is within the 12 steps. You have to confront being like a strong word, but you've got to look at what it is that you're guilty, your guilt's coming from, your shame is. There's no point in just, it's there. Let's look at it correctly. Let's figure this out. You know what I mean? Don't avoid it. Yes, I have done, I mean, I've been in so many situations. I've done so many things where people will just go, and I mentioned them, you know what I mean? You know, like I've lost control of my bowels. I was a fully functioning alcoholic, alcohol dependent for a long time. Thinking the nastiest cider, it's just like goes right through your guts, right through. You know what I mean? Even the smell of it, it's like that frosty jack. It's just, ugh. So I've done things that people just die of shame even when I speak about them, you know. But if you can't go back and look at it, then you're gonna be it's that resentment or that emotion. So it's that emotion, like you know, in circular motion, it's emotion, isn't it? So it's on, it's on. If I don't go and look at it, every time I think about it, I'm gonna feel it.
Mm,
You know what I mean? But the more I do it, the less and less it gets. You know what I mean? Thing is, people aren't
yeah,
that.
that relates because as long as you have shame and guilt and you do nothing about it, every time you something like that happens, it's going to have complete power over you. It's going to feel a gut wrench maybe in your stomach or that sense of, oh, I'm going to hide away. But if you kind of approach it and look at it in a deep way, then it loses its power.
Yeah.
Perfect example is you can sit here there and talk about all this and not flinch. And I feel as though I'm very similar with regards to myself with the idea of porn. Before, perhaps 10 weeks ago, I couldn't mention the word without feeling guilt and shame. But now that I'm looking deep into it, that guilt and shame no longer has any power. I can talk about it, and there might be a little bit of embarrassment, but that guilt and shame of doing it is gone, which is why I can talk about it so openly.
Yeah, yeah. And then once you start talking about it openly, you realise that you're helping others and you're moving away. And you're moving away. You go, oh my God, that's all it was. You see, one of the big learnings for me at the beginning in recovery is someone actually said to me, do you know what? You're not that important. I was like, what? What? Like, no, you're not. You know, people will, people aren't asked really about what's going on for you. You know, you are. It's
Mm.
shame. Your close circle or something like that. But people have got their own shit going on, and people are going to be getting on with their own lives, and they're not going to be dwelling on what you did or didn't do, or how you feel because of this and that. It's like, you know, today headlines is tomorrow's fish and chip paper wrapper. You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't matter. So once I got over that, I mean, it did take me a little bit of, oh, you cheeky bastard. Maybe it's that day, you know who I think I am.
So, for those people who perhaps are alone and are going through addictions at this moment in time and are willing to maybe are willing to take that first step, what can they do?
Great question. Reach out. Have to reach out. I have been working within this field since 2013, 2014. I have never come across anyone that's managed to pull themselves out of it on their own. I've witnessed some really um, sturdy people that have pulled themselves to places no longer doing as bad as what they did previously. But unless you unearth, go back to source, the inevitability of creating that same problem again and again will happen. You know, reach out. I would say reach out. Reach out. Find someone. Reach out. Open up. You know, we're only as sick as our secrets. That's it. And they can only flourish in the dark, like mushrooms. They'll grow in the dark. But you say you feed them shit, keep them in the dark, and then they flourish. That's what happens.
I don't know about you, but I find I know that I have porn and social media addictions for me. Quite often it's to do with numbing pain. How can somebody lean and learn to sit with this pain? Because I think sometimes within pain it's this discomfort. So how can people start to really sit with that discomfort?
Compassionately, I feel to be around others who understand is the beginning of being able to sit with it. So you can see others. When now you're talking about porn addiction, coming away from it, and the embarrassment and or the less embarrassment, and again, as I said, when we're looking towards I want to be in, someone's looking towards wanting to be us. So it's that collective, that support, because we're all one. No one does things that I haven't done. We've all done porn addiction. We've all, not addiction. We all go to the toilet. We all do the same things. Not one.
So the key message is to reach out and to find a community who can help and support you through it.
Connection. Definitely.
So for those who don't know you, what do you do and how can they get in contact with you?
So I will help people online. You can find me at jamesbanksaddiction@gmail.com. James Banks Addiction on Instagram. People in Belfast, I run a free support group every 2 weeks. Just inviting anyone to come along and start the journey. I work with people online. People want to work with me, I can work with online. Do discount rates, do all that. My style is I always encourage people to get out and find the community, their tribe. I'm not about working with people to like a cash cow. I don't want to work with people for money. That's never been my objective. In recovery, I want people to get better and just find their own tribe. And they're out there, no matter where you're at. There's people out there. And there's always AA and CA, but there's men's groups, there's women's groups, there's support groups, sports groups, there's singing, there's ecstatic dance, there's so many different things. Because the addiction is just it's the lowest form of the Russian doll. That's what that is. It's that, or it's whatever you do, it's that. I'm just encouraging you to come out, and coming out, this is where you learn how to be. All the things you can't do in life, you learn how to do them in safe environments. I mean, eventually you become a fully Russian doll. You'll be that version, which can still go down if you start being dishonest. That's the big one. You come down. But you can be honest and then come back home. But if people want to work with me, you can find me at James Banks Addiction. That's fine. But that's my style, if you like.
Yeah.
Encourage people to go get it in the world. Don't sit with me. You know what I mean? I'll bring you to the place that you can do it on your own. And then take the stabilizers off and go, go. You need me, but go.
Yeah.
That's what life is.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.